Let's get right into it. Number 1. The Juul e-cigarette. When Juul launched in 2015, they claimed they were helping smokers quit. But what they really created was a nicotine delivery system designed to hook teenagers. The device looked like a USB drive, sleek enough to hide in plain sight at school. While most e-cigarettes had nicotine levels around 1 to 2%, Juul cranked theirs up to 5%. That's not just higher, that's high enough to get you seriously addicted, fast. And those flavors? Mango, creme brulee, cucumber? Those weren't aimed at lifelong smokers trying to quit. They were targeting kids. Their marketing used young models all over Instagram and social media. They even bought ads on teen websites and threw launch parties at youth-friendly venues. By 2018, 1 in 5 high school students was using Juul. The FDA had to call it what it was, a youth nicotine epidemic. Juul eventually settled investigations by 33 states for $440 million. They weren't helping smokers quit. They were creating new addicts. Number 2. Factor VIII blood products. In the early 1980s, people with hemophilia needed regular injections of Factor VIII to help their blood clot. Bayer's Cutter Laboratories was making this medicine when they discovered something terrifying. Their product was contaminated with HIV. They developed a new heat-treated version that killed the virus. But here's where it gets dark. Instead of destroying the contaminated stock, they kept selling it. Where? To Asia and Latin America. Internal documents revealed their reasoning was simple. They had excess product that needed to be sold. They didn't want to lose money throwing it away, so they created 2 different labels. The safe product went to wealthy countries. The contaminated version was dumped in poorer nations. Thousands of people, many of them children, were infected with HIV. Many victims didn't discover they were infected until years later, after they'd already passed it to their partners. The company knew. They chose profit over lives. Number 3. The Keep America Beautiful campaign. That guilt you feel about plastic waste? The feeling that it's your fault the oceans are full of trash? You've been played. In the 1950s, Coca-Cola and Pepsi had a serious problem. Their single-use bottles were creating massive litter everywhere. States were trying to pass laws forcing them to use refillable bottles, which would cost these companies a fortune. So they created Keep America Beautiful. On the surface, it looked like a genuine environmental group, but it was actually one of the first major astroturfing campaigns, where corporations dress up as grassroots movements. Their most famous ad showed a crying Native American looking at pollution. The message was clear. You're the litterer. You're the bad guy for not disposing of our products properly, not us for making billions from disposable containers. And it worked perfectly. The blame shifted to consumers. Fun fact, the crying Indian in their commercial wasn't even Native American. He was an Italian-American actor. Even their guilt trip was fake. This campaign was so successful that other industries copied it. Chemical companies created fake farmer groups to fight pesticide regulations. Number 4. Leaded gasoline. In 1921, engineer Thomas Migley discovered that adding lead to gasoline stopped engine knocking. The problem? Lead poisoning had been known for literally thousands of years. Ancient Romans knew lead could cause madness and death. But General Motors, DuPont, and Standard Oil saw profit potential. They formed a company to manufacture it and deliberately avoided using the word lead in any marketing. They called it ethyl gasoline instead. Workers at the production plants started dying almost immediately. In 1924, multiple workers at facilities in Ohio and New Jersey experienced hallucinations, seizures, and death from lead exposure. At least 5 people died at one plant in just 2 months. Migley himself suffered from lead poisoning. But at a press conference in 1924, he poured tetraethyl lead over his hands and inhaled the fumes for a full minute to prove it was safe. He knew he was lying. He'd already been seriously ill from lead exposure. The companies also knew about a safer alternative. Ethanol worked just as well as an anti-knock additive. Migley even filed a patent for it. But you can't patent ethanol and make massive profits from it. So they conveniently forgot it existed and publicly denied any alternative to lead. For decades, lead from car exhaust contaminated the air, soil, and water. It damaged children's developing brains, lowering IQs and causing behavioral problems. The US finally banned leaded gasoline in 1996, but the last country to ban it, Algeria, only stopped selling it in 2021. Number 5. OxyContin. In the 1990s, Purdue Pharma had a powerful painkiller, but doctors were hesitant to prescribe it. They knew strong opioids were addictive. So Purdue's solution was simple: just lie. They launched a massive marketing campaign claiming OxyContin was virtually non-addictive. Sales reps told doctors less than 1% of patients would get hooked. That number was completely made up. They even invented a term, opiophobia, to shame doctors who were hesitant to prescribe it. They tracked which doctors prescribed the most pills and targeted them with free lunches, paid speaking gigs, and fancy trips. Anything to get them writing more prescriptions. When reports of addiction and overdoses started coming in, Purdue doubled down. They blamed patients, calling them reckless criminals who were abusing the drug. Meanwhile, the Sackler family who owned Purdue made billions. By 2004, OxyContin had become the most abused prescription drug in America. To date, over 500,000 Americans have died from opioid overdoses. When they finally got caught, the Sacklers paid billions in settlements, but avoided jail time and kept most of their fortune. Number 6. Cigarette filters. In the 1950s, the public was starting to panic about lung cancer. Tobacco companies had scientists who confirmed their product was killing people, so they invented the cigarette filter. You might think filters were created to make smoking safer. That's exactly what Big Tobacco wanted you to think. Internal documents showed they were fully aware filters were basically useless. They just made people feel safer. The first popular filtered brand, Kent, even used asbestos in their filters and marketed it as the greatest health protection in cigarette history. Asbestos. In reality, filters made cigarettes more dangerous. When smoke is filtered, people just inhale harder to get their nicotine fix. That extra suction forces smoke deeper into the lungs. Plus, those filters are made of plastic fibers that take 10 years to decompose. Today, 4.5 trillion cigarette butts are thrown away every year, making them the most littered item on Earth. They leach nicotine and heavy metals into soil and water. So tobacco companies not only tricked people into thinking filters made smoking safer, they also created one of the planet's biggest sources of plastic pollution. Number 7. Agent Orange. Agent Orange started as a weed killer in the 1940s. It killed pretty much any plant it touched. The US military saw this and decided to spray it all over Vietnam's forests and crops during the war. Between 1962 and 1971, American planes dumped about 20 million gallons of this stuff. They called it Operation Ranch Hand. The companies making it, Dow and Monsanto, knew something was seriously wrong with their product. During manufacturing, it got contaminated with dioxin, one of the most toxic substances known to humans. Dioxin gets into soil and water and eventually into people. Once it's in you, it doesn't leave. The companies knew about this contamination and how dangerous it was, but they kept making it anyway. 3 generations later, people in Vietnam are still being born with horrific birth defects. American veterans who were exposed developed rare cancers. Their children were born with spina bifida and other severe conditions. There are places in Vietnam where the soil is still so contaminated that nothing will grow. The chemical companies tried claiming they were just following orders. They eventually paid a settlement, but it was a tiny fraction of what they made from selling the chemical. Number 8. The anti-fat health fad. In 1967, the sugar industry held a secret meeting. Scientists were starting to link sugar to heart disease, which was terrible for business. So the Sugar Research Foundation secretly paid 3 Harvard scientists about $50,000 in today's money. These scientists published a paper designed to shift all blame from sugar to fat. They cherry-picked studies that made fat look like the villain while completely ignoring evidence about sugar's harmful effects. America's entire understanding of nutrition changed overnight. Suddenly, everyone was terrified of fat. Companies started making fat-free versions of everything. But when you take fat out of food, it tastes terrible, so they replaced it with sugar. Massive amounts of sugar. That fat-free yogurt you're eating, it probably has more sugar than a candy bar. Those fat-free cookies? Sugar bombs with some flour mixed in. The sugar industry pulled off one of the greatest cons in nutrition history. This wasn't discovered until 2016, when researchers found the secret documents. By then, we'd spent decades getting fatter and sicker while eating so-called healthy fat-free foods. Number 9. Refrigerant Freon. In 1928, Thomas Migley, the same guy who gave us leaded gasoline, invented another environmental disaster, CFCs, sold under the brand name Freon. Refrigerators at the time used toxic gases like ammonia that could kill you if they leaked. Migley created CFCs as a safe, non-toxic alternative. To prove it was harmless, he even inhaled a large amount and blew out a candle to show it wasn't flammable or toxic. And he was right. To humans, CFCs were harmless. The problem was what they did to the atmosphere. Nobody knew this at the time, but CFCs were destroying the Earth's ozone layer, the protective shield that blocks harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun. It wasn't until 1974 that scientists figured out CFCs were causing massive damage to the ozone. By 1985, researchers discovered a giant hole in the ozone layer over Antarctica. Each CFC molecule could destroy 100,000 ozone molecules. DuPont, the main producer, initially fought regulation hard, but eventually, the evidence was overwhelming. In 1987, the Montreal Protocol banned CFCs worldwide. The ozone layer is slowly recovering, but it'll take until around 2065 to fully heal. One man, Thomas Migley, managed to poison the planet twice. That's all for today. Subscribe to see more videos like this.